Chapter 16 Dirty Little Secrets, 9 p.m. Vanessa's sister pulled up just as we got outside. She slid the back door open and then grabbed her phone to answer a quick text. "Hey, Lucy," Vanessa said from the front seat as we climbed into the minivan. "I didn't think you were coming." In the split second between when she spoke and when I answered, a million thoughts ran through my brain. Did she wish I wasn't coming? Had she and Kaylee been talking about me behind my back tonight? Vanessa and I were like friends once removed. We wouldn't have had any connection at all except for Kaylee, and I always felt like she was letting me know that she had been there first. "Yeah," I said, "I got done early, so I decided to come along." Kaylee smacked me on the shoulder. She got done early and couldn't stand the thought of Josh Lee being there all by himself. She sat back hard as the van lurched into the street. "Are you having a thing with Josh Lee?" Vanessa asked, in a tone that said she didn't believe it. "No," I said. "Kaylee's just hallucinating." I could feel my cheeks getting warm at the thought of seeing him. Focusing on Josh made my nerves calm down a little bit. I had to put Mom and the house behind me if I was going to go through with this. This was my only shot, and I had to take it because there were probably wouldn't be another time. "Not even," she said. "You should have seen them at the movies last night." God, was that really only last night? It seemed like weeks ago. "That's funny. I thought he was back together with Kara," Vanessa said. I was pretty sure she was lying, but the thought made my stomach turn. Still, it wouldn't be that surprising. They were bound to get back together at some point. Vanessa grinned at me as she sat back in her seat and pulled a cigarette out of her purse. She had taken a few drags when Kaylee smelled it and popped the back window open. "Nessa!" she yelled. "My mom will have a heart attack if she smells smoke on me." All right," Vanessa said, leaning forward to toss the cigarette out the front window. "Calm down. You act like you've never seen anyone smoking before." Kaylee waved her hands around the interior of the van, trying to coax the smoke outside. "I've never seen you smoking before. What were you thinking? You know your mom would kill you for stinking up her van." Vanessa reached into her purse and pulled out a pack of Camel 100s. She wouldn't care. "Besides, these things totally help you lose weight," she said. "They're kind of expensive, but cheaper than diet pills as long as you buy them by the carton." "Stay away from me with those," Kaylee said. "I don't want to get grounded." Vanessa's sister parked behind a long line of cars on the normally quiet street. Even inside the van, we could hear music from a house halfway up the block. I felt a strange thrill run through me at the thought of Josh being so close. "I'm not getting the rest of my winter break wrecked because you need to be skinnier," Kaylee said. "Whatever," Vanessa said and opened the door. "There's Trisha. Hey, I'll meet you guys up there." She hopped out of the van as delicately as someone who is wearing a super short miniskirt can. "Trish, wait up." I watched Vanessa walk up the dimly lit street, her multi-hued blonde hair waving behind her like a shimmering stream and the 3-inch heels she was wearing not slowing her stride down a bit. I envied Vanessa, not because most of her butt was hanging out of her skirt, that just made me feel colder, but because she never truly cared what other people thought of her. She'd say something mean about someone, something that most everyone else had probably been thinking anyway, but the difference was she'd say it to their face. That kind of behavior didn't make people hate her like you'd think it would. Instead, it made most people hope that they weren't the ones she was talking about. She'd always left me pretty much alone. So far. Kaylee wriggled out of the seat and jumped to the ground. "Let's do it." I'd left the house so quickly I didn't have anything with me, and it made me feel kind of naked. I stuck my hands in my jacket pockets to warm them. Teddy B's leg was near the left pocket under my jacket, and I gave it a little squeeze for luck or courage, or something. I tried to be cool as we walked into the party. A few people I didn't recognize weren't so much dancing as swaying in the middle of the living room. One girl dressed in a pink sweater was draped over the shoulders of a short guy in saggy jeans. She looked like she was sleeping. Most people are probably out back, Kaylee said, and grabbing my hand, pulled me toward the sliding glass doors at one end of the room. It was so cold outside that there were puffs of steam hovering just above everyone's heads as they exhaled. At the back of the patio on a small raised deck, Josh stood with a guitar slung low on his hips and one hand on the microphone. He was wearing a thin t-shirt and jeans, in contrast to everyone else who was bundled up in down jackets and scarves. The muscles in his arms were marked by ropey veins that pulsed every time he played a chord on the guitar. Even from the back here, I could see the sweat dripping down the side of his temples, and the front of his hair was plastered to his forehead. There was a group of people gathered around the makeshift stage, with a bunch of girls lining the front. The waves of desire between the crowd and the band were almost physical as Josh began to sing, his eyes closed with effort. All of a sudden, I wished I hadn't come. Josh could have any girl here. Why did I think he'd want me? That he had his arm around me just a few hours ago seemed suddenly impossible. I felt like I did the one and only time we'd spoken at school earlier this year. Stupid and delusional. I had been standing by my locker shifting books out of my backpack when I saw him a few feet away talking to Steve Romero. I heard Steve slam his locker and walk away, which is why I was totally startled to see Josh still standing there as I turned to go to class. Hey, he said, smiling at me, either not noticing or ignoring the fact that I jumped a mile. We have physics together, don't we? Mm-hmm. I nodded. I didn't trust myself to say actual words. You're Lucy, right? He said, not waiting for an answer. I'm Josh. Josh Lee. I know. I realized almost too late that I know would be kind of obvious. Right, I finally said, managing a tight smile. Yeah, I'm Lucy Tompkins. He turned to go, and I stood there hyperventilating like an idiot, not believing we had an almost conversation. After a few steps, he turned back to look at me. Come on, he said. We'd better hurry if we're going to make it before the bell. I took a few quick steps to catch up to him. Right, I said. Physics. Our strides matched as we walked down the hall, me racking my brain trying to come up with something interesting to say. Luckily, Josh didn't seem to have the same problem. God, Miss Lucas is killing me this year, he said. I thought chemistry was bad, but sometimes it's like she's speaking another language. It's not so hard, I said. Art was my favorite subject, but I always did pretty well in science too. I watched our feet as they stretched over the worn linoleum floor, not daring to look up into his face. She usually explains things pretty well. Plus, physics is kind of fun if you look at it the right way. Are you kidding me? Josh asked. Fun? No wonder you are always getting A's. We should study together sometime, just so I don't screw up my GPA. Then you can show me how fun physics really is. I glanced up to see if he was kidding. He was looking at me seriously out of the corner of his eye. Um, yeah, we could do that, I said. That would be cool. I couldn't believe that Josh Lee was actually walking through the hall asking me to help him with physics. Maybe we could go to the cafe and study, our heads bent over one of the tiny round tables as we ordered coffee after coffee to keep us up working late at night. Josh's smile widened. Maybe. There you are, Kara squealed, jumping on his back and draping her arms over his shoulders. I've been looking all over for you. She buried her face in his neck, and I just stared, wishing so badly I had permission to do the same thing. He reached up and grabbed her by the arms. Hey, Kara, he said, laughing a little. We were just heading to class. Kara slid off his back. We? She asked. Yeah, he nodded in my direction. You know Lucy. She glanced at me for a second longer than necessary and said, not really. Kara turned her full attention to Josh. Listen, I need to talk to you about Friday night. She pulled him over to the lockers and leaned in so that they could talk quietly, leaving me standing alone in the stream of people heading to class. I watched for a second as they surrounded themselves with the privacy that only longtime couples seem to have, studying each other, oblivious to everyone else around them. Well, I said quietly inside, guess I'll see you in class. I walked slowly toward the science wing, feeling like an idiot, but also grateful that I didn't make a complete idiot of myself, like Josh would ever choose me over Kara. or over anyone else. Now here I was doing the same thing again, having crazy fantasies about Josh when he was just being polite. Haley stood on her tiptoes surveying the crowd. I think I see Steve over there. I'm freezing, I said. I'm going to go back inside. I wanted to get out of there before Josh knew I'd come. I couldn't compete with all the normal girls in school. There was no use in even trying. What's inside? Kaylee asked. All the good stuff is out here. She looked at me and then back to the band. What you need is some beer. Wait here, I'll be right back. With the crowd around the huge keg as with the With the crowd around the keg as huge as it was, I figured she'd be gone for ages, but she was back in a minute or two. Here, she had said, handing me a blue plastic cup. Careful, it's a little drippy. How did you do that so fast? I have my ways, she said. She looked over my shoulder to see if Steve was still there. I wish I could be more like her and look straight at what I wanted and navigate a keg in under 2 minutes. Drink it quick, it'll relax you. Tentative sip of the beer. It tasted like vomit. I tried hard not to wrinkle my nose in disgust. Is it bad? Kaylee asked. I handed her the beer and she took a small sip. Just like them to get a keg full of crap beer. She handed it back to me. Doesn't matter though, it'll do the trick. Vanessa and Tricia came over with their own matching blue plastic cups. The beer was cold and my hand was getting numb. They should give you those cardboard sleeves like they do at Sienna when the coffee is too hot for the cup. Cheers, Vanessa said and raised her cup in the air before taking a giant swig. She didn't even make a face when she was done. Are we checking out anyone in particular? Tricia asked. Her skirt was almost as short as Vanessa's, but at least she had the decency to shiver and cross her arms in front of her as she tried to ward off the cold wind that cut through the yard. Vanessa laughed. Apparently, Miss Lucy here has a thing going with Josh Lee. Tricia raised her eyebrows. I knew that he'd broken up with Kara. Were you his thing on the side? No way, Kaylee answered for me. Get real. Lucy doesn't have to go for sloppy seconds. Josh asked her to come to the party. He's totally into her. If he's so into her then why has he been flirting with Justine all night? Tricia asked. She tossed her head in the direction of the stage. I felt a heavy weight settle in my stomach as I looked back toward the rear of the yard. Sure enough, Justine had planted herself right in front of where Josh was singing. He's not flirting with Justine, Kaylee said. Everyone knows she's been throwing herself at him for months. I have eyes, Tricia said, and I know what I saw. She looked at me. You don't seriously think you'd be going out with him? He's totally going to get back with Kara. They're just cooling off until after winter break. They're meant for each other. Each word was like a hammer blow of reality. Haley might want to think Josh liked me, but as annoying as Tricia was, she was probably right. I glanced back to the stage where Josh was looking intently at someone as he finished the song. He was looking right at Justine Hildebrandt. The music stopped, but I couldn't bear to have Josh see me now, facing him like all the other girls. What would he think if he saw me standing here? Couldn't stand to see him put his arm around Justine, to know that she was feeling the warmth of his body next to hers, inhaling his scent. The last normal night of my life was probably going to end like every other one had, with me cold and alone. Kaylee was still arguing with Tricia, so I inched backward until I was standing next to a tall palm tree and a big wooden planter. I tried taking another drink to see if getting buzzed would make me feel any better, but the beer was so disgusting I could hardly manage a tiny swallow. There was no way I was going to be able to choke down enough to make it worth it. While nobody was looking, I tipped my cup into the planter and dumped out half the beer. As I raised the cup back to my lips so it would look like I'd been drinking the whole time, I felt warm breath on the back of my neck. I wouldn't drink that swill either, he said with a laugh. My heart raced, and I didn't know whether to be happy or horrified because I'd recognized Josh Lee's voice anywhere.